Do you ever wonder, the things I've done, how could God use me? Stay tuned to Preparing Christ's Bride.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Welcome to Preparing Christ's Bride, a weekly program with Janice McBride featuring practical applications from God's Word for our daily lives. Here's Janice.
Many people wonder as Christians, how will I have a ministry? How can God use me? When will He use me? Well, 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 3 and 4 tells us that we are to comfort others with the same comfort that God has comforted us. I minister at women's retreats, marriage retreats, in schools, colleges, prisons, and on military bases. I minister in churches of all denominations throughout the U.S. and into other countries. I teach people how to be forgiven and healed and set free through God's amazing grace and the power of God's Word. There's no situation that is not clearly addressed in the Bible. Alcoholics and their families, drugs, eating disorders, physical, mental, emotional, sexual abuse, marriage problems, child raising, fear, loneliness, hate, anger, bitterness, financial problems. All of these are addressed in God's Word and many, many more. How was this ministry birthed? Where did I learn everything that I have? Well, I like to say that I attended wilderness school and then I went to Dry Desert College. I learned what I learned on the front lines of battle. I grew up in a home where I firsthand experienced all the things I just mentioned. And again, God's Word tells me in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 3 and 4, that I'm to comfort others the same way that God comforted me. I've been doing this for over 20 years. By daily reading and applying God's Word, I got set free, I got healed, my marriage got restored. And this is what I teach other people. Romans 8:28 tells us, we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. I've seen God do this in my life, and I've seen Him do it in countless other lives. Can all things work together for good? All things? All the evil that was done to me, to you? All the sin that I was involved in, the sin that you've been involved in? Can God take all of it and work it together for good? Well, yes, He can. God's Word clearly says He can, and God's Word is truth. I'd like us to think of Joseph. His brothers sold him into slavery. 13 years in slavery. A lot of pain, a lot of tests and trials. But when he saw his brothers face to face, he said, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And that's how I feel with my past. People meant it for evil, but my God has meant it for good. I can honestly say now, I thank God that He knit me in my mother's womb. Everything I experienced was my training to co-labor with Jesus Christ and ministering to God's people. If you're not ministering comfort to others, as God has comforted you, I encourage you to start today. And if you have been faithful to do that, I encourage you to continue to do it. Every painful situation in your life, every sorrow, whether it's the result of your own sin or whether it's things that have been done to you, allow the Lord to encourage you in your distress. Jesus Christ is the only answer to the world's problems, and as Christians, we need to minister the gospel and the power of God's Word into every situation.